You didn't leave her. You abandoned the echo of yourself that needed her to witness your final scream. The silence you left behind was not peace. It was a trap you handcrafted with vanishing acts and untied knots. She speaks to your absence like a priestess chants over a tomb that never opened. You thought your exit made you powerful, but the ghost that lingers isn't yours, it's hers, and it feeds on the things you didn't say. Some women don't move on because there is no body to bury. You turned your pain into a question mark and disappeared. But Nietzsche already warned you when you walk away like a god. They'll crucify the version of you that still bleeds, and she will keep looking for that wound forever. If this whisper already knows, you let it echo. Like the video. Leave your shadow in the comments. Subscribe and stay near the silence. When you vanish without ending, you become her unfinished ritual, not a man, but a myth she cannot kill. She still carries the shape of your shadow, not because she needs you, but because you refuse to rot. You did not die in her story, you exited like a trickster, a god with no funeral, no ashes, no scream, and in doing so, you cursed her with the worst kind of faith, the kind that waits. She is not mourning, she is orbiting an event that never finished. You did not vanish, you decayed into symbol. Every man who leaves without bleeding becomes an icon, and every woman left staring into that silence is condemned to worship it. You were not her closure, you were her cliffhanger. She walks through days like a priestess carrying bones that never dried. Each memory is embalmed, but not buried. The things you left unsaid still twitch in her hands like nerves cut too quickly. You may think you ended the play, but she is still on the stage, acting out your silence line by line, hoping for the final curtain that never falls. Women like her don't cry for you. They cry for the moment they never got to watch you break. You wanted to disappear like thunder. Instead, you became fog shapeless. Everywhere. Impossible to curse. She screams in her dreams, but it's not your name. It's the noise of a door that never closed. Even the gods needed death to become divine. You denied her the spectacle of ending. You denied her the altar, and now she carves your initials into every man who comes after, not out of longing, but to finish what you began. She is not grieving you, she is trying to bury you with someone else's hands. She does not want you back, she wants you dead. Finally, truly, loudly. But you were too much of a coward to die properly. You left her with your phantom, still warm, still whispering. She cannot love again because your corpse keeps talking. It recites everything it never said. She is haunted, not because you mattered, but because you refused to dissolve. You are not her memory. You are her unburied body. You never see the ritual you interrupt when you vanish like that. The ancient choreography of ending the scream, the collapse, the forgiveness, the final breath. You robbed her of all of it, and in its place, you left mythology. A man who left too quickly becomes more powerful than a man who stayed. But that power is venom, and she drinks it every time she checks a message that will never come. She wakes to a battlefield you created and fled. You built the trenches, armed the silence, and ran. And now she fights ghosts in your name. Don't flatter yourself she does not miss you. She wants to burn the altar. But how do you burn what never died? You made her doubt her own story. A clean betrayal can be mourned. But this is erosion. This is rot with no language. You didn't hurt her, you made her question whether she imagined the knife. And so she replays every second, not to remember you, but to prove you were real. She doesn't want you back. She wants the verdict. You think she holds on because she's weak. But the truth is crueler. She holds on because you never gave her a corpse to release. You became the riddle at the center of her quietest thoughts. Not a man, but a wound without edges. She tries to explain it to herself that maybe you were too afraid, that maybe you loved her and vanished because it scared you. But that's not truth. That's the mercy she invented to survive your silence. And still, she checks the sky, not because she expects you to return, but because your absence has colonized her rituals. She puts on lipstick, not for a new man, but to see if your ghost still smirks. She closes the curtains, not for privacy, but to shut out your eyes that no longer exist. Closure is not kindness, it is violence done properly. You chose the coward's power to leave before impact, to never let her see the crash. And now she crashes every day without you, slowly, alone. You think you left cleanly, but her sanity has the fingerprints of your exit all over it. She does not dream of you with love. She dreams of courtrooms and knives, of final words shouted in rain, of funerals you deserve. She does not fantasize about your return. She fantasizes about your ending. Even tragedy can be holy if it concludes. But you left her in a purgatory of almosts. Almost healed, almost certain, almost free. You turned her heartbreak into homework, something to reread, reanalyze, destroy. She's not hung up on you. She's trying to end a sentence you interrupted. You could have died like a man. Instead, you evaporated like a thought. And now, she's a museum of half-burned letters and dreams that rot in the light. You were never her love story. You were her unfinished ritual. And unfinished rituals demand blood. You don't believe this. Of course, you think you were forgotten, but forgetting requires something to end. And you didn't end. You paused her. You left her in a stillness that pretends to be peace. She walks around with your silence stitched into her spine. Your name is not remembered. It is carried like a stone in her mouth. And you will mistake her strength for healing. But healing requires a grave, and you never gave her one. So she became the grave. She buried herself to survive you. You thought you'd be free. You are not. You are cursed to exist in fragments, in half-finished texts, in photos she cannot delete, in the way she flinches when someone says your name. You are not her past. You are her ghost. And ghosts do not haunt because they're evil. They haunt because they were never buried right. Every woman clings to a reflection of the man who disappeared not out of love, but because the silence keeps distorting her own face. You thought she would stare after you, but she stares into herself, into a mirror you cracked on your way out. Her reflection does not mourn you. It interrogates the echo that still won't explain. You were never the question. You became the mirror in which she now doubts herself. Not because she loved you too much, but because the silence you left behind began to contort her. What happens when a woman speaks into an absence and it whispers back in her own voice? That's what you've done. You erased your outline, and now she cannot tell whether she lost you or herself. Your disappearance didn't hurt her the way you think. It didn't break her heart. It distorted her perception. That's far more cruel, because it made her reflection suspect. It made her wonder whether her instincts lied, whether the warmth was imagined, whether the kindness was manipulation, whether the man she saw was ever truly there or just her own desire reflecting back at her. She does not cry for you. She cries because she trusted her eyes and they betrayed her. You planted doubt like a parasite, and it bloomed in the glass. That mirror is her torment now. She applies lipstick with precision, but she's not looking at beauty, she's searching for evidence. She turns her head at angles, recalling the way you once glanced at her jawline. Did you mean it? Did you see her? Or were you already gone then? Every smile she rehearses is not for seduction, it is an autopsy. You have become her conspiracy. A myth she reconstructs each morning. She's no longer asking if you loved her. She's asking if she ever existed through your eyes at all. And because you vanished, she has no way to confirm the answer. So the loop continues. The questions breathe. Her identity breaks into versions: the adored, the fooled, the abandoned. You didn't just leave a woman. You left a hall of mirrors behind, and now she walks through them, barefoot, looking for one that reflects her without bleeding. It is not love that binds her to your ghost. It is a fever of doubt, a fever you infected her with when you ran, because a lie can be cured. But maybe metastasizes. You didn't give her betrayal. You gave her a riddle, and she solves it in lipstick, in silence, in how long she stares into empty rooms before blinking. She doesn't hate you. She hates the version of herself that still hopes she was wrong. Do you understand the cruelty of that? When a woman cannot even trust her own vision, when her memories might be hallucinations, that's when the real damage begins. You didn't break her heart. You broke her mirror. And now she sees you everywhere. Not because you matter, but because she's trying to find the version of herself that didn't need to ask. She doesn't say your name anymore, but she watches men's hands to see if they tremble like yours did when you were lying. She studies their silences not for depth, but for deflection. She reads between text messages like a prophet decoding omens. She isn't cautious. She's forensic, and you made her that way. This is the curse of a woman left without closure. She stops believing in reflections, not just of lovers, but of herself. Every compliment, every gaze, every gesture becomes suspect, because once she looked into a mirror and saw love, and it turned out to be absence wearing a mask. So now she flinches at her own warmth. She wasn't always like this. You remember, she used to laugh from the gut, the kind of laugh that doesn't apologize. She used to believe that if she loved deeply, she would be seen clearly. But you turned her depth into a flaw. You took the way she opened and made it her reason to close. And now her mirror has rules. Don't trust joy. Don't believe first kisses. Don't expect the ending to make sense. These are the commandments you etched into her glass. Not because you were powerful, but because you were absent. And absence, when done well, rewrites everything. She doesn't trust the new man. Not because he's unworthy, but because he smiles the way you did. He says, "I see you," and she recoils, because that phrase has already betrayed her. You left her with symbols that turned toxic. Now, every kindness looks like bait. She does not want revenge. She wants clarity, but you can't give her that. You've dissolved into her doubt. You've become her unfinished sentence. She whispers to her past, not for nostalgia, but for evidence. She just wants to know if the love she gave was ever truly received. If her mirror was clean, or if you were already gone while she was still reflecting. You can't understand this. You think it's about pain, but it's not. It's about sanity. It's about looking at your own eyes and not knowing if you saw truth or your own illusion. You made her afraid of her intuition, and that is how you stay alive in her. Like poison, you are the mirror that won't lie, but only because it no longer reflects anything. It's cracked, multiplied, and now every piece offers a different face. She doesn't recognize herself anymore in relationships. You made her a shapeshifter, not a survivor, a mimic. She adjusts her voice to avoid echoes. She changes her language to dodge assumptions. She bends, not because she's weak, but because the last time she stood still, she shattered. You broke her certainty, not her heart, and that is why she's still haunted, because love is not erased with time. But doubt multiplies. You left no answers, so now every man after you becomes an experiment, an interrogation, a failed reflection. You think she still cares. She doesn't. She just wants to look in the mirror without hearing your voice narrate it. You trained her to search for exit wounds before beginnings. She reads affection like a crime scene. She hears I'm here and already counts how many ways it could mean I'm leaving. This is not a woman in love with you. This is a woman dismantling the structure that once welcomed you. You didn't take her peace. You replaced it with your vanishing. And now she sees that shape in herself. A flicker, a doubt, a sudden silence in the middle of joy. Your legacy isn't heartbreak. It's the quiet between her sentences, the hesitation behind her smile. She has become the mirror, and the mirror remembers. What she repeats isn't grief, it's the power you left behind, reshaped into vengeance, obsession, or prayer. She speaks your name like a weapon now, not aloud, not to anyone else, just in the quiet moments between her breath and her instinct. It is not longing that brings it up, it is the ritual of reclaiming something that tried to vanish without paying its debt. You thought your silence would make her forget, but it became a language. She learned to speak in your absence. And now, every time she opens her mouth, a part of what you abandoned rises with it, not in love, not in grief, but in transformation. She did not stay still. You only think she did because you do not see her anymore. You do not hear how she tells the story. You do not feel the chill in her voice when your name is mentioned, how her tone sharpens, not like glass, but like memory that has learned to cut. She no longer waits for closure. She rewrote the ending, and in her version, you do not win. You are not the villain. That would have been something. You are the void, and she made it echo. You left her nothing, so she made your absence speak. It speaks through the way she stops smiling halfway through. It speaks when she chooses not to respond to a text. It speaks when she lets a man think she needs him and then watches him leave, unharmed, just so she can prove she doesn't break anymore. You left her empty, and she filled it with control. Now she uses the same silence you once used, but she wields it differently. You used it to avoid. She uses it to decide. She doesn't vanish like you did. She lets them stay and still denies them entry, because she understands now it's not disappearing that gives power. It's the refusal to explain. She has become the echo, but it's not your echo anymore. It's the echo of a woman who outgrew the question, the echo of someone who no longer looks for answers, only patterns, and once she recognizes the pattern, she does not weep. She moves. She moves quietly, yes, but not like prey, like a storm that no longer warns. You would not recognize her now. She does not beg. She does not wonder. She does not pause. She watches. She calculates. She sees the next man begin his performance, and she already knows his final line. Not because she is bitter, but because she has heard this script before. You wrote it. She studied it. She memorized every lie that came, dressed as care. And now she mimics your cadence, your absences, your cryptic tenderness, but not to hurt, to survive, to master, to reclaim the voice you muted. She no longer asks, "Why did he leave?" She asks, "Why did I ever whisper instead of roar?" The echo has become her chant. She walks into rooms now with her silence ahead of her, like a spell. It disorients men. They cannot find where to place their charm, their control, their hooks. She doesn't offer a hook. She offers no beginning. And without a beginning, there can be no betrayal. You made her fluent in endings, and what she lost in softness, she gained in clarity. She does not play games. She orchestrates them. She listens when a man says he's afraid of deep women. She smiles, not because she agrees, but because she knows she is the ocean he cannot swim in. You made her that way, not your love, your lack of it, your retreat, your refusal to explain, your unfinished ritual. You were not her loss. You were her beginning, the beginning of the echo. She wears it now. It hums behind her eyes. It sits in her posture. She doesn't rush to fill silences. She lets others drown in them. She knows what it's like to beg an abyss for answers and hear only her own breath in return. Now she is the abyss, and when men call her cold, detached, or unreadable, she does not flinch. She knows what they mean. They mean she no longer waits. They mean she no longer translates herself into something more convenient. They mean she has stopped apologizing for the echo, and instead has started using it as a shield. She speaks rarely, but when she does, it's with a precision that draws blood. She has learned that the sharpest weapon is not anger, but poise, and your silence taught her that. Not out of wisdom, but out of necessity, because the woman who begs becomes the woman who breaks, and the woman who echoes becomes the woman who reigns. She has turned your exit into her doctrine. She recites it in the way she pulls away from comfort, in the way she demands nothing, in the way she never lets anyone too close, not because she fears pain, but because she recognizes patterns. You were not a heartbreak. You were a map, and now she navigates by it. Every absence you left behind she catalogued. Every contradiction she remembered. And when she speaks now, she does not use words to seek understanding. She uses them to reveal. She exposes weakness like a mirror. Men confess to her in whispers, thinking she'll heal them. But she doesn't. She listens. And then she vanishes just enough to leave them wondering what they said wrong. Because that's what you taught her, that power isn't in the wound, but in who names it. You didn't make her cruel. You made her clear. You made her ancient. You turned her into something primal, something unblinking. And still, she carries your name somewhere inside her, not with affection, with discipline, because the echo does not forget. It evolves. She tells her friends now, I don't miss him. I miss who I was before him, before I learned to hold back, before I learned that being seen too clearly is a liability, before I learned that honesty is a kind of vulnerability men punish. And then she smiles, because even that pain has become useful. She is not grieving, she is building, and the materials, the silences you left, the words you refused to say, the pauses in your text, the look in your eyes that promised, then retracted. She took it all, she wrote it down, and now it is part of her gospel. Not a prayer for your return, but a chant that keeps her from collapsing. She does not want revenge. That would mean you still hold value. No. What she wants, what she has, is the voice you tried to deny her. And it no longer trembles. She is not waiting, she is warning. And every man who tries to love her now must face the echo, not of you, but of what she became after you. A woman who understands that endings are not given. They are taken. You took the easy path, the silent exit, the absence that hoped to be mistaken for mystery. But she decoded it, and she turned your riddle into a rhythm. You think she's still haunted. She's not. She's echoing, and echoes don't seek the original voice. They become their own music, somewhere. A woman closes her eyes before sleep, not to dream, but to listen. There's a sound she almost remembers, a breath that once promised to stay. It no longer hurts. It hums. It sounds like rain inside a locked room, like footsteps that never arrived, like the silence after a final door clicks shut. She smiles, not because she forgives you, not because she wants you back, but because you are finally fading the way she chooses. And somewhere inside that quiet, a new voice sharpens. Hers, still soft, still echoing, but never yours again.